What if the most dangerous thing you're doing for your health has nothing to do with smoking, alcohol, or skipping the gym? What if it's sitting quietly in your microwave right now? In the leftovers you've been eating for years, thinking you were doing the right thing? That's exactly what this video is about. 5 common foods that become genuinely hazardous the moment you reheat them. And if you're over 60, this isn't just interesting. This could be the most important thing you watch all week. Subscribe before we dive in. We cover the health information your doctor doesn't have time to tell you at a 15-minute checkup. A 67-year-old man came to see me not long ago. Never smoked, no family history of heart disease, exercised regularly, cooked at home, thought he was doing everything right. But his arteries looked like those of a man pushing 85, stiff, inflamed, and worn down in ways I associate with decades of terrible choices.
We went through his habits carefully. It wasn't his genes. It wasn't his stress. It was his dinner. Specifically, what he did to it every night before eating it. He was reheating the same foods the same way, and those foods were quietly destroying him. I'm Dr. Jacob Allen, cardiothoracic surgeon with over 30 years of operating on human hearts. What I'm about to share rarely comes up at a routine checkup, but it should. These 5 foods most people consider perfectly normal, even healthy, become chemically dangerous when reheated. They trigger a biological chain reaction that attacks your arteries and simultaneously creates conditions where abnormal cell growth becomes far more likely. Stay with me, because by the end, you'll never look at leftovers the same way again. Here's what you need to understand first. In your 30s and 40s, your body ran a powerful cleanup operation around the clock, neutralizing toxins, catching DNA errors, managing inflammation quietly and efficiently. After 60, that system slows significantly. Your liver processes toxins more slowly. Your immune response becomes less precise. Your arterial walls grow thinner and less elastic, and your DNA repair mechanisms start missing things they used to catch. The margin for error shrinks. Things harmless at 40 can cause real harm at 65. This is where chronic inflammation becomes the enemy. Acute inflammation is healthy. It heals cuts, fights infections, does its job and leaves. Chronic inflammation never switches off. It's a low-level, slow-burning fire damaging your arterial walls and creating an environment where abnormal cellular changes go unchecked. I've watched both outcomes play out on the operating table more times than I'd like to count. Every food on this list feeds that same underlying fire. Let's start with what's probably in your kitchen right now. Fried food. French fries, fried chicken, anything cooked in vegetable oil. Here's what most people don't know. Eating it fresh isn't the main danger. Reheating it is. When vegetable oil is exposed to heat a second time, it oxidizes and releases compounds called aldehydes, the same compounds found in cigarette smoke. That's not drama, that's the chemistry. So when you microwave yesterday's fried chicken, you're essentially adding a cigarette-related chemical to your meal. Aldehydes attack the cells lining your blood vessels, trigger oxidative stress, and drive inflammation that stiffens and narrows your arteries over time. They're also free radicals that damage your DNA directly. After 60, when DNA repair is already slower, those mutations accumulate. That's how serious cellular illness begins, not overnight, but gradually, through repeated exposure. The fix: oven or air fryer at moderate heat, no added oil, or just eat it cold. Not glamorous, but your arteries will thank you. Now this next one shocks people every time. Leafy greens, spinach, kale, Swiss chard, the foods everyone tells you to eat more of, and they're right when prepared correctly. The danger starts after cooking. Raw leafy greens contain nitrates, harmless in their original form, but once cooked and left to cool, bacteria begin converting those nitrates into nitrites. Then when you reheat them, those nitrites react with proteins in the food to produce nitrosamines. The World Health Organization classifies nitrosamines as probable human carcinogens, linked to stomach, esophageal, and colon cancers. And they don't just raise cancer risk, they also inflame the endothelium, the inner lining of your blood vessels, making blood pressure harder to control and clotting risk higher. Cancer risk and cardiovascular inflammation at the same time. From a vegetable you cook to be healthy. The simple fix: cook only what you'll eat immediately. Leftovers go cold. Into a salad, into the fridge within 30 minutes. Never reheat leafy greens. Ever. Rice seems like the safest food imaginable. Plain, neutral, eaten by billions every day. And yet reheated rice causes more foodborne illness than almost any other staple on the planet. Here's why. When you cook rice, most bacteria die, but not Bacillus cereus. Its spores survive boiling. They go dormant in the heat, wake up as the rice cools, and multiply fast. You think reheating will fix it? Reheating kills the bacteria, but not the toxins they've already produced. Those toxins are heat resistant. You can steam that rice until it's scalding hot. The toxins remain active. Short term, nausea and vomiting, unpleasant but survivable. Long term, repeated exposure to these toxins creates chronic intestinal inflammation, and that inflammation doesn't stay local. The gut and the cardiovascular system are directly connected. Inflammatory signals travel through your bloodstream and disrupt cholesterol metabolism and blood pressure regulation. I've had patients with unexplained cardiovascular inflammation, healthy weight, non-smokers, decent diet, and when we dug into their habits, it kept coming back to reheated rice every single day. The rule: refrigerate rice within 1 hour of cooking, use it within 24 hours, reheat it once and only once. Better yet, cook smaller portions. If you're finding this useful, subscribe now. There's a lot more where this came from, and you won't want to miss it. Chicken is one of the most popular proteins for people over 60. Lean, versatile, easy to batch cook. The problem isn't the chicken, it's the microwave. Microwaves heat food by exciting water molecules, but they don't do it evenly. They create cold zones, pockets inside the food that never reach a safe temperature, even when the outside is steaming hot. You can't see them, but bacteria can find them. Salmonella, Campylobacter, and Listeria all survive in those zones. Campylobacter can withstand temperatures that kill most other pathogens. Listeria is particularly dangerous for people over 60, whose immunity has weakened with age. And beyond single severe episodes, the quieter danger is repeated low-level bacterial exposure. Each time your immune system fights bacterial toxins, it releases inflammatory cytokines into your bloodstream. Do that regularly, and those cytokines circulate constantly, damaging arterial walls, promoting plaque buildup, and increasing clotting risk. The solution: use the oven with foil at moderate heat, or eat the chicken cold. If you must microwave it, cut it into small pieces and let it rest 2 full minutes after heating. Small change, much safer outcome. Finally, potatoes. And this one hits from 2 directions at once. First, acrylamide. When starchy foods cook at high heat, a chemical reaction between sugars and an amino acid produces acrylamide, classified by the International Agency for Research on Cancer as a probable human carcinogen linked to kidney cancer and others. It forms the first time you cook the potato. When you reheat it, more forms on top of what's already there. And after 60, your body detoxifies acrylamide less efficiently. The same exposure does more damage than it would at 40. That's the cancer angle. Now the heart angle. Freshly cooked and cooled potatoes contain resistant starch, which acts like fiber, feeding good gut bacteria and slowing glucose release, keeping blood sugar stable. Reheat that potato, and the resistant starch converts back into regular starch, which digests rapidly. Blood sugar spikes. Your pancreas surges insulin. For anyone over 60 with even mild insulin resistance, and many people have it without knowing. Those repeated sharp spikes drive oxidative stress in your vessel walls and accelerate arterial stiffening. One reheated potato, triggering both carcinogen exposure and a cardiovascular stress response simultaneously. That's a silent double threat. The solution: cold potato salad with olive oil and lemon. Resistant starch stays intact, blood sugar stays stable, and honestly, it's delicious. If you need them warm, cook fresh ones. Now let me step back, because the real danger isn't any one of these foods in isolation. It's what happens when they work together, consistently, over months and years. I've spent decades in operating rooms, and that vantage point changes how you see time. The patient on my table didn't arrive there because of one bad meal. They arrived because of a pattern. Reheated oils, nitrosamines, bacterial toxins, acrylamide, blood sugar spikes, different mechanisms. Same destination. Chronic low-level systemic inflammation. That inflammation silently damages arterial walls, accumulates plaque, narrows vessels, raises blood pressure, and creates the oxidative conditions under which serious cellular illness develops. Heart disease and cancer are not always separate problems with separate causes. In many of the cases I've seen, they share the same root, chronic inflammation. And after 60, the timeline compresses. Damage that took 20 years to develop at 40 may take 10 years at 65. Here's the part I want you to hold on to. Inflammation is reversible. Arterial function can improve. These processes can be slowed and often stopped with consistent, simple changes. Your body's capacity for recovery is genuinely remarkable, but it needs you to stop fueling the fire. Here are your 5 swaps, plain and simple. Fried food, oven or air fryer, no added oil, or eat it cold. Leafy greens, cook only what you'll eat right now. Refrigerate the rest cold within 30 minutes. Never reheat. Rice. Fridge within 1 hour, use within 24 hours, reheat once maximum. Chicken. Oven with foil or cold. Microwave only if you cut it small and let it rest 2 minutes after. Potatoes. Eat them cold when possible. Cook fresh if you need them warm. None of this requires giving up food you love. It just requires thinking differently about timing and temperature. And these changes stack. Each one reduces your inflammatory load a little. All 5 together reduces it significantly. That reduction shows up in real ways. More stable energy, better blood pressure, improved digestion. I want to close with something that comes from a very specific place. I have stood in operating rooms with a person's chest open in front of me more times than I can count. And in those moments, health stops being abstract. You're not looking at a risk percentage. You're looking at a 68-year-old grandfather whose arteries are so calcified and rigid they barely function. And the question that never leaves you, how much of this was preventable? The honest answer, a significant portion. Genetics matter, age matters, there are factors no one can control. But chronic inflammation is largely preventable. And it's at the root of an enormous share of the cardiovascular disease and serious illness I've seen throughout my career. What strikes me most are not the obvious cases. It's the patients who did almost everything right, exercised, watched their weight, cooked at home, and still ended up with severe arterial damage. Same pattern every time when we looked closely. Reheated oils daily, spinach microwaved every morning, rice left on the counter overnight, chicken in the microwave 3 times a week. None of it felt dangerous. That's exactly the problem. It felt responsible. But inside the body, those repeated chemical exposures accumulate silently. Inflammation never fully resolves. The DNA repair system starts missing things. The damage builds quietly until it can't be ignored. This is the conversation I wish I could have with every patient before they need surgery, before the options narrow. You still have all your options. You're watching this, which means you're asking the right questions at the right time. 5 simple changes to how you handle specific foods. No prescription required, no specialist needed. Your body has carried you a long way. It has more capacity to heal than you probably give it credit for. What it needs is for you to stop adding fuel to a fire that's already burning. Reduce the inflammation. Protect the arteries. Give your cells a fighting chance. That's not medical poetry. That's what 30 years in the operating room teaches you. Which of these 5 foods surprised you most? Leave it in the comments. I genuinely want to know. And if someone you care about is over 60 and reheating these foods, share this video with them. Not to scare them, to give them what you now have. Hit like if this was useful, and subscribe for more honest conversations about your health. We're not here to sugarcoat anything. Take care of your heart. Take care of yourself. The kitchen is one of the most powerful places in your life. Now you know how to use it. Everything in this video is general information, not personal medical advice. Please consult your own physician before making changes to your diet or health routine.